Hello, today in courtroom drama that unfolds as Kristen DiMera faces an unexpectedly harsh prison sentence, orchestrated by Brady Black's ruthless determination to see her suffer maximum consequences for her alleged crimes. The courtroom confrontation that changes everything. The tension in the Salem courthouse reaches a boiling point this week as Kristen DiMera, Stacey Hayduke, stands before the judge, awaiting her fate in what has become one of the most emotionally charged legal proceedings in recent memory. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation as family members, friends, and enemies gather to witness the conclusion of a case that has torn the DiMera family apart and left deep wounds in the Black family as well. Brady Black sits in the gallery, his jaw clenched with determination as he prepares to make his final push for justice, or what he believes to be justice. Unbeknownst to the packed courtroom, Brady has been working behind the scenes, pulling strings and leveraging his influence to ensure that Kristen receives the harshest possible punishment for her crimes. His vendetta against the woman who has caused him so much pain over the years has reached a fever pitch, and he's prepared to use every ounce of his power to see her locked away for as long as legally possible. What makes this situation particularly tragic is the explosive secret that lies beneath the surface, Kristen's false confession to protect her beloved daughter Rachel. The courtroom drama becomes even more intense when considering that Kristen has willingly stepped forward to take responsibility for shooting E.J. DiMera, a crime she didn't commit, all to shield Rachel Black, Alice Halsey, from the devastating consequences of her actions. Brady's calculated campaign for maximum punishment. Brady's relentless pursuit of Kristen's downfall represents a masterclass in legal manipulation and emotional warfare. Throughout the proceedings, he has systematically contacted prosecutors, provided character testimony, and even reached out to influential figures in the Salem legal system to ensure that Kristen faces the full weight of the law. His arguments are compelling and well-researched, painting Kristen as a dangerous repeat offender who poses a significant threat to society and deserves no mercy from the court. The irony of Brady's actions becomes increasingly apparent as viewers understand the true motivation behind Kristen's confession. While Brady sees her as a manipulative criminal who deserves punishment, the reality is far more complex and heartbreaking. Kristen has made the ultimate maternal sacrifice, choosing to face years in prison rather than allow her young daughter to suffer the consequences of what appears to have been an accidental shooting. Brady's campaign extends beyond the courtroom walls, as he has spent weeks building public sentiment against Kristen through carefully orchestrated conversations with mutual friends and family members. He has methodically dismantled any sympathy that might exist for Kristen, ensuring that when sentencing day arrives, there will be little support for leniency. His efforts have been so thorough and convincing that even some of Kristen's former allies have begun to question whether she deserves compassion. The most devastating aspect of Brady's plan is his complete ignorance of the sacrifice Kristen is making for their shared connection to Rachel. His tunnel vision, fueled by years of betrayal and heartbreak, has blinded him to the possibility that Kristen might be acting out of love rather than malice. This blindness will ultimately make his eventual realization all the more devastating when the truth finally comes to light. The hidden sacrifice that Brady cannot see. Beneath the surface of this legal drama lies a mother's love story that would soften even the hardest hearts if it were known. Kristen's decision to confess to E.J.'s shooting represents the culmination of weeks of agonizing internal struggle as she watched her young daughter Rachel suffer under the weight of guilt and fear. The little girl, who witnessed the tragic events unfold, has been carrying a burden far too heavy for her small shoulders to bear. Rachel's psychological state has deteriorated significantly since the incident, with nightmares, anxiety attacks, and behavioral changes that have left Kristen desperate to find a solution. The prospect of her innocent daughter facing juvenile detention or years of therapy and legal proceedings has driven Kristen to make an impossible choice. She would rather sacrifice her own freedom than watch Rachel's childhood be destroyed by the consequences of a moment that appears to have been accidental. The emotional complexity of Kristen's sacrifice extends beyond simple maternal instinct. She understands that by confessing to the crime, she will face not only prison time but also the loss of precious years with Rachel during some of the most formative periods of the child's life. However, Kristen has calculated that this sacrifice is necessary to preserve Rachel's future and protect her from the trauma of a public trial and potential incarceration. What makes this sacrifice even more poignant is Kristen's awareness that Brady will likely use her confession as validation of his worst assumptions about her character. She knows that her false admission of guilt will be seen as proof of her inherent criminality rather than evidence of her maternal devotion. This knowledge adds another layer of pain to her already difficult decision, as she must not only face prison but also endure the continued hatred of the man who should understand her motivations better than anyone. Rachel's devastating emotional journey. The impact of these events on Rachel Black cannot be overstated, as the young girl finds herself caught in an emotional maelstrom that threatens to reshape her entire worldview. Rachel's initial relief at her mother's confession will quickly transform into confusion and hurt as she begins to process the implications of Kristen's admission. The child who has been struggling with guilt over the shooting will suddenly find herself questioning whether her mother has been lying to her all along. Rachel's psychological journey becomes even more complex when she realizes that Kristen's confession means another prolonged separation from the most important person in her life. Having already endured previous separations due to Kristen's legal troubles, Rachel understands the devastating loneliness that awaits her. The prospect of years without her mother's daily presence, guidance, and love represents a trauma that may have lasting effects on her development and emotional well-being. The confusion that Rachel will experience stems from her inability to understand why Kristen would force her to testify if she was the real shooter all along. This perceived betrayal will create trust issues that could complicate their relationship for years to come, even after the truth eventually emerges. Rachel may struggle to reconcile her love for her mother with her anger over what she perceives as unnecessary deception and manipulation. Furthermore, Rachel's relationship with Brady will become increasingly complicated as she witnesses his aggressive pursuit of her mother's maximum punishment. The child may begin to see Brady not as a protective father figure but as someone who actively works to keep her separated from her mother. This shift in perception could have profound implications for their future relationship and Rachel's ability to trust the adults in her life. The inevitable revelation and Brady's awakening. The truth about Kristen's sacrifice will eventually emerge, likely through Marlena Evans, Deidre Hall, compassionate investigation and her unique ability to see beyond surface appearances to understand the deeper motivations at play. Marlena's psychiatric training and her long history with both Kristen and Brady position her perfectly to uncover the real story and help Brady understand the magnitude of his mistake. When Brady finally learns that Kristen's confession was false and motivated by maternal love rather than criminal intent, the revelation will hit him like a devastating blow to his conscience and his heart. The man who has spent weeks orchestrating Kristen's downfall will suddenly realize that he has been instrumental in punishing a mother for trying to protect her child. This realization will force Brady to confront not only his actions but also his fundamental assumptions about Kristen's character and motivations. The emotional aftermath of this revelation will be particularly intense for Brady, as he will have to grapple with the knowledge that his vindictive campaign has resulted in the imprisonment of someone who was actually performing an act of selfless love. The irony will not be lost on him that while he was portraying Kristen as a heartless criminal, she was actually demonstrating the kind of parental sacrifice that he himself would make for his own children. Brady's journey toward understanding and potential redemption will be complicated by the practical realities of the legal system. Even after learning the truth, reversing Kristen's sentence may prove difficult or impossible, meaning that his newfound awareness of her sacrifice might come too late to prevent the very consequences he worked so hard to ensure. This timing will add another layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking situation. The ripple effects of misplaced justice. The consequences of Brady's successful campaign for Kristen's maximum sentence will extend far beyond the immediate participants, creating waves of emotional devastation that will impact the entire extended family network. Johnny D. Mara, Carson Boatman, who was originally facing charges for the shooting, will likely struggle with guilt over allowing Kristen to take his place, even though he is innocent of the crime as well. The DiMera family will be forced to watch as one of their own suffers for a crime she didn't commit while being unable to reveal the truth without destroying an innocent child's life. This impossible situation will create internal family tensions and force difficult decisions about loyalty, truth, and protection. E.J. DiMera, Dan Feuerriegel. As the shooting victim, will face his own moral dilemma about whether to accept Kristen's sacrifice or push for the truth to be revealed. Belle Black, Martha Madison, and other family members who witness Brady's relentless pursuit of Kristen's punishment may begin to question his judgment and moral compass. The revelation of Kristen's true motivations will likely create rifts within the Black family, as members struggle to understand how Brady could be so blind to the possibility of Kristen's sacrifice and so determined to see her suffer. The broader Salem community will also be affected as the truth gradually emerges, forcing residents to confront their own assumptions about justice, redemption, and the complexity of human motivation. The case will become a cautionary tale about the dangers of seeking revenge without fully understanding the circumstances and motivations involved. This heartbreaking saga serves as a powerful reminder that appearances can be deceiving and that true justice requires not just punishment but understanding, compassion, and the wisdom to see beyond surface actions to the deeper truths that motivate human behavior.